Have you noticed that? I mean, I noticed that as a bottom up brother who doesn't come from academia community. I don't come from that. I noticed that people who have attacked me the most has been white women trying to silence me, trying to make me, look at myself. Hey, Leonard, what you say to that?
Well, first thing I'm gonna say is the word toxic masculinity is like an oxymoron. All right, so
Yeah.
there is no toxicity in masculinity. Okay, so that's the word to basically replace men behaving badly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. There's
So
brokenness
Right.
out there.
exactly.
There's emotional issues. There's people that need
Right.
therapy.
Yeah.
But masculinity is masculinity, and we've gotten so far
Right.
from the idea of
Right.
masculinity because we've had generations now, a generation or
Yeah.
two of people growing up without seeing men
Right.
in
Right.
the home, so they've forgotten. They don't know
Hmm.
what that looks like. So
But
yeah,
Joe,
you're absolutely right.
hey Joe, you
So,
showed
so
that quote about from that black men should be wiped off the earth. That is being taught. I mean, that's the and I'm being facetious, but when you dig
No,
into
that's
this,
true.
toxic masculinity is being taught at the high levels and now in even high schools where all masculinity is actually very toxic. So they're trying to change it.
so
So think
yeah,
about
toxic masculinity can only exist if there's toxic femininity. So
Well, yeah, here's a good point. I was talking
you
to
know,
a professor in Chicago, and she works in the prisons, and she was talking about toxic masculinity. And I said, well, is there any toxic femininity? She said, no, no, no. What do you mean? If there's toxic men, we know toxic
There would
women,
have
but
to be toxic. Yeah.
There have
there's
to be
no
toxic. Very good point.
there's no
right.
toxic femininity. And I kind of got her at that. Why is there only toxic masculinity? Which means knuckleheads, abusing their, masculine. Well, there's women that abuse it, maybe not at the
Hmm.
rate of men, but the whole
Oh,
idea that it's one
But
sided.
but it's
but
here
isn't
now.
it isn't it amazing that toxic masculinity was not ever thought of when the dominant European culture of men were doing what they were doing? You never heard such terminologies being used
Yeah.
Right. Right.
when the dominant European culture of men, husbands and fathers, they were pushing their agenda and they never thought it only became a problem, brothers. Okay, when we stepped up and we rose up and we started being able to voice our opinion and speak our truths and everything. And all of a sudden, oh, toxic masculinity and everything. Have you noticed
Yeah.
that? I mean, keep it
Yeah.
real. Can
Well,
we just
I
speak
know
to that?
manhood is built upon character, plain and simple. So
Yeah.
masculinity is also built upon character. You cannot have the opposite, right? So
Right.
what you have is if anything, if men are not behaving the way men should behave, and when I talk about that, I mean with character, with dignity, with honor, with
Yeah,
Right.
respect. All right, the things that we want to teach our sons. All right, how to treat people fairly, how to treat people, with respect and dignity, and the respect and dignity that you should be getting. Right, then you can't have that. The word, like say, toxic masculinity is a weaponized word because
yes,
Yes.
masculinity is not toxic, just like
yeah.
femininity is not toxic. So
that's
you
Yeah, I
go
that.
mean,
back
when
to
you
that.
really think about that phrase, toxic masculinity, it's like if this was a gun, the word
Yeah.
toxic would be the bullets. You
Right.
know
Right.
what I mean? It's
Exactly.
a loaded gun there,
A
and
loaded
it's
word,
interesting
loaded
how
term.
exactly it's interesting how like what you just said. It only became a problem when it comes to us saying that. Just like where Dave Chappelle
Gender. You
said,
talking about?
Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle said that he said something along the lines of, when black men were talking about how they feel different inside, people looked and they said, "Shut up, nigger. We don't care about your feelings." But
Right.
when a white man comes out and talks about how he's feeling inside, all of a sudden it's a big deal. Esoteric Concept says, so how did this start? Hey, you know what's interesting and
I got
what
an
popped
answer
in
for
my
that.
head? Grandmaster Jay, I feel like, brought out and that's the leader of the NFAC, who's going through a hell of troubles right now. I feel like he made that term way more public because he himself said that it's, in response to someone's question, he said it's my toxic masculinity, and all of a sudden this phrase became a big deal and people started talking about it like crazy. So this is just really within the past couple of years, that phrase kind of came out and became a big to do all over.
Yeah, I can attempt to answer that question.
When
Where
did
did
it
it
start?
start? Because it's a very deep thing, and we've talked about this in the past. In the 1960s, the former Marxists became neo-Marxists, and in France, the intellectuals, and they passed this doctrine. So what they did is instead of the workers against the owners and the proletariat, they started this what we call political agenda where it was males against females. So males are the oppressors and females are the oppressed, and this is where identity politics started. And what they did is and this movement went to Yale University here in America in the 60s and now has spread to every university in the Western world. It's not just us, it's England, New Zealand, Australia. So, this idea that actual masculinity is part of the patriarchal, they attribute everything to men running society. So, that's where this came from, and it's very prominent. I mean, it's absolutely. We talked about Black Lives Matter. I guess we're going to get into that, and Leonard maybe can comment on that. Their original website agenda was very anti-male,
Right, it
anti-family, and
was.
it was anti-religion because they're Marxists who are, first of all, atheists, but they believe that the patriarchal society is oppressive and it's run by males. So that's where toxic masculinity, and it comes to this gender because if males are toxic, what should you do? Change them into females. So this
Right.
whole idea that you could change your biological makeup and decide, and most of the transgender are going from, well, it's equal, but more of them are from male to female than there are from female to male. So that's very interesting.
Right. Right.
So,
But,
and
Hey,
that's
Lennon, before you leave, let's have you jump on this conversation
right. Right.
about, what's going on.
And I right. Right. How it kind of started with toxic masculinity. Well, like I said, there was obviously a plan. When you think about us as a people, ADS as a people, one of the things, as much as we've gone through, one of the things that could never be destroyed about us, what gave us our strength, was our bond and family. Even
Right,
in slavery, as slaves were separated, family members were separated, you had documented evidence that you had people walking hundreds of miles to reunite with family members and to bring the family back together. See, so what was understood is, okay, with these people, in order to really destroy them, we got to destroy the family. So we have to pit the man versus the woman.
yep,
Okay, and you started to see that really, like I say, is the plan was devised in the 70s, in the 60s, but you
yep,
really started to see it in the 70s. 1970 marked the first year when we start to see a decline in marriage between women. Okay, and well, between quote unquote black men and black women. That's when you start to see the numbers go down because at one point in time we were like 85%. Now, some of that is attributed to, at 16 years old, people are getting married. Okay, well, you don't have that anymore. So maybe we have to change the metric, but still, the numbers, all right, are still way, way, way off when it comes to marriage and family building. And like I said, it's family building is how you create a sustainable people. Nishan had mentioned before the term that I had mentioned earlier in slavery. It was called, the term is called durante vita. Durante vita. It is a Latin term that means during life. You will be an underclass, or you'll be a slave class, or you'll be at the bottom during your entire life. The only time that you will not be an underclass or slave class or at the bottom of society is after you die. So So yeah, so this right here still is in effect where this Durante Vita type mentality. Keep these people as an underclass. Keep these people down, at the bottom. All right. Destroy their family bond. Destroy their sense of identity. Destroy their gender identity. All right. So we can always create some sort of confusion. This is the new Willie Lynch. Okay. For y'all that are
So
not
let it,
familiar, for you guys
so
not
let it
familiar with
going
Willie
into the
Lynch,
black. Yeah, I just want to make sure because I know you got to get up. I want your comments on Black Lives Matter, taking that same conversation into Black Lives Matter and how that potentially has played a role into keeping us divided because we don't even know how to pick our leaders. We don't even know we're looking for the wrong thing. So take that right into Black Lives Matter before
right,
you
right.
leave and what's going on with
The,
them.
the question I have for Black Lives Matters is, like I said, is Black Lives Matters is a great tagline, a great slogan phrase, a rally cry. All right. So now that we've rallied, what types of things are we seeing? All right. Where's the results? I mean, I guess this is an organization that started to thwart police brutality or to address police injustice, okay, or unjust policing. All right. So has that reduced? Has it been made public? Yeah, okay. They made a lot of noise. Okay, right. But still, you still have the problem. There's still incidences popping up. You just may not hear about them. So what have we seen, of substantial that we can point to and say, hey, here's what these people have done? Because now we're starting to see where monies are being, taken and misused and this, that, and the other, and all of that. See, so
Hey,
yeah, exactly.
well,
Exactly.
Talk about this gender and the gay stuff. There was a conscious strategy by the gay movement that, if they just came out and promoting their sexuality, two men having sex, that wasn't going to go over. So they realized they had to merge it with the civil rights agenda. And I think
Exactly.
we mentioned yesterday, almost every city that's introduced gay rights or hate crimes has always
Came
used
straight through the civil
uh,
rights movement.
civil rights leaders or African American politicians. Here in
Mm-hmm.
Louisville, since us in Louisville, the first hate crimes ordinance and the first fairness amendment was introduced by Paul Bather,
Right.
an African American. And then when he got kind of whooped upon because he he originally sponsored the ordinance, and then when it came to vote, he voted against it because he was being threatened to be kicked out of his office. Because guess what? The African American community was not in support of it. So these leaders who are being bought and paid by the European American gay movement, they do not really represent the community,
Right.
and they represent the opposite. And so anyway, after he backed off, well, guess what? Denise Bentley took it up,
Right.
an African American woman. So, but it was run by the European Americans and financed. And I know
Right.
that firsthand because I was on the front lines. And you know, when you go down to the board of aldermen, they were in their offices 24/7. But and here's a good example. Reggie Meeks, sadly at the time, there was 8 elected African American officials that either aldermen or state representative. 7 of the 8 were pro-homosexual. Only
Wow.
one, only one, Bill Wilson, was pro-family. And guess what? Courier Journal and the community, they ganged up on him and had Denise Bentley beat him in the primary. So then you had all 8 of 8 were pro-homosexual, and that's when they were able to pass it. But it was being
Right.
financed and led, just like Black Lives Matter is, by the European radical Marxist
Right.
homosexual
Exactly.
leadership.
On the attack of manhood. There's no doubt attack on manhood, because here's the thing: if you remove the man from his true power or his position, then the woman falls. It's just that simple. And the way to attack a family or people is you attack the men. You attack the
Right.
men first, and then the family breaks down because it's the men that hold the family intact. So, there's this thing to where it becomes offensive to even say masculine, right? I mean, when you think about it, that's a gay person's nightmare to hear the word masculine. So his job or their job is to attack masculinity because masculinity is heterosexual. Right.
Right.
And so what's happening in this society here, and it happened over time. It didn't happen overnight. It's just something that gradually happened. If you even look at how hip hop or the music industry have changed, remember back in our days, hell, Mishan, we had love music. We had music of making love and family and stuff, right? And we were mimicking that behavior. And so we. Right. And even if you look at the men back then, they were masculine. If you look at the movies, Jim Kelly, all the masculine men, right? They weren't wearing makeup. They weren't out arching their eyebrows or none of that, right? And so these was the masculine men that we as a people begin to mimic. And so this is when it became an attack on black movies when they talked about exploitation movies, right? Exactly. Because these were movies to where we were heroes in our movies, right? We were the heroes kicking the white man's ass and shit. So we fell for the okie doke when they started talking about that behavior is getting black men to be this and be that. And we fell for it, but we didn't know that it was actually teaching us something. Because if you're from a small city, a little small town, and and when you look at some of those movies back then of Jim Kelly and all of that, those movies were people in the bigger cities. But in the small cities, young black men begin to see their image in these movies, kicking white people's ass, right? Boom, 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 right? And so those images they knew would be passed down and the behavior. So, they got in front of us and they're not that smart. They're only using our stupidity to stay on top. I'm gonna say that again. They're only using our stupidity to stay on top. If we change our mindset, they fall. It's just that simple. And when I say them, I'm not going to put them in a certain color of people, because there's a lot of black people. There's a lot of people that looks like us in their line of work. Masons, black Masons, right? The African-American Masons who are part of the agenda too. The Black Caucus, right. So we got a lot of black people falling for the agenda, and we fail to look at it. So most black people, most men of color, and even women are afraid to speak out against the LGB, right? Because they'll come after your pocket, they'll come after your show, they'll cancel your shows and all of that, right? They'll come after you. We know this. Even when you look at women, check this out, and this is very interesting, and this is a strike against the women. Because there are so many women that are gay, they may practice heterosexual, but a lot of women, a big percentage. And in fact, if you look at the research, most young girls today and teenage, and it goes all the way back to my daughter, they had experienced sexual activity with the same sex before they experienced it with a boy, right? Go look it up, right? Yes. And so here you have this agenda. Right. You got this agenda that's going on. And so now what's happening is that you see young boys, like I said about young boys today, with their pants hanging down. These things are images that are being put in front of our face, right? And so when you look at that, the strike against the women is this. There's an agenda. There is a group of people, men, who are actually taking the place of women. You think about it, women should be actually fucking offended of a man acting like a woman. Woo! She should be the first one mad at that shit. No, hell no. How the fuck are you gonna be Woman of the Year in a magazine? Women should have been upset at that magazine and want to really just go there, because here's the thing, that motherfucker can't have a period. You can't breastfeed. You don't have an ovary. You ain't a woman. And so this thing about replacing the woman, right? It's about replacing her. And now they're getting in her sports. Right now they're competing. Now a boy, masculine ass man, can put on a fucking dress now, and he can go compete. His punk ass didn't want to compete with men. His punk ass, he couldn't beat them out. So he went over there with the women, and they allowed it because people are afraid to speak out against it. And that's the problem. This is a serious agenda. Those motherfuckers even took over the rainbow color, which wasn't their goddamn color in the first place. They took a common color and made it their symbol. Put it up everywhere. They stole some shit. The rainbow color was a beautiful color here for centuries, right? And now they done took it and fucked it up. Now it doesn't look so good no more. Now when I see the rainbow color, I know what it stands for. I won't buy my grandbaby nothing with rainbow colors on it because I know the fucking symbol. Right? Yes. And they just hijack shit. And we fall for it. Everything that's happening, we're falling for. And we're fitting right inside that agenda. On our own, we're doing it without any help. We are validating their behavior. We are validating what they want us to be. And that's how they win.
John, you are my brother. You know what? You my evil twin. You say it articulate the way that I need to say it, but I can't say it, but you say it. Okay.
If you got pants, you're supposed to have them up. What society in the world today where their pants where men are showing their butt cheeks and their underwear? I mean, I got to say today's men is the most fucked up group of young men I've ever seen in my fucking life. And so here we are in this situation to where they are mistreating women. They are not respecting the womb that they came from today. And the behaviors of black men today. And the behaviors of how we're treating not only each other, but how we're treating our women. There's a big trend of change going on. And those of you who are 40 and other really ain't paying attention to that trend because you were too young to even recognize what was happening then. And so, it's like I always say, having the opportunity to sit with elders.
Yes.
And that's what's missing in the community. We don't have elders anymore in the community. Now we got young YouTubers and shit, niggas who just study some shit on YouTube and think they're gods and they can really teach and shit. What we need is our elders back. And we need the elders to sit around. We need to be able to sit around the elders and listen to the old stories of how shit used to be. Right. But we don't have that. We don't have no respect for the elders anymore. No fucking respect for the elders anymore like it used to be. And the problem with that is because of the lack of fatherhood and what you're looking at these young men today. Majority of the young men today did not have a father. So therefore, how can they respect an elder? Can you imagine you with your dad, hanging out with your dad, and your dad is with people his age? Those are elders. You was told to shut your fucking mouth. You ain't told to question the elders. And you were told to listen to these grown men, and you raised up with that behavior. It is the same behavior as black women or women, period. And when I'm speaking about those who are the absent father thing, if a woman grows up and she didn't have a dad, and she don't know nothing about a goddamn man, what is she going to read a book about it or look at YouTube? She don't know nothing. The first thing she will learn about a man and a man's behavior is watching her dad. In fact, there's an essential love and respect and different feelings when it comes to father love with a young girl and mother love. There's two different types of love. The mama's love is one thing. The father deep voice love, that masculine voice, is another. And she respects this one a little bit different and ain't equal, but this one over here, I'm gonna tell your dad when he gets home. You better put that up when your dad get home. And that's when the child knows, oh shit, get that done because dad is coming. The masculine one that with the authority voice is coming home. Hey, clean up that room. Hey, we don't have that no more. Now you got women raising boys, putting ponytails on them and shit. Doing shit like that, feminizing little boys today. Right. So they're growing up to be these punk ass men you see today. That was raised by women. What grown ass man is gonna let his child walk around with his pants down? Nigga, you better pull your pants up, boy, when you come around here. Put you a belt on.
And we think it's cute.
We're gonna let his boy do that shit.
People think it's cute. They got their
and we have to be able to teach what masculinity is and heterosexual, what it means to reproduce. And those who are willing to listen will listen. Those who are not listening, if you're not turning off that TV, if you stop Only if you stop allowing the agenda to come into your living room and get it into your ears, the only way it changes. So if you can't convince people to turn the TV off, stop listening to that music, and it ain't happening because they're controlling the airwaves, they're controlling the frequency, which what people are following. And every time they change the dial, people change. You see? So, it ain't going to, because most of us don't have the courage to turn that fucking TV off.
So
That's
Peter,
absolutely right.
So Peter, what do you say? I don't need to comment. I can actually stand on my principles. That's why I like the divine principle concept. So John, moving forward, here's my recommendations moving forward for the next 400 years of going into the new year. I believe that there is a little hope in all of us born after 1960. I call us baby boomers in the middle. We in the middle of this shit, okay? And we're the last hope. When I say the 1960 to 1964, okay? We are the last hope, okay? And I believe that if we were to mobilize and create a conversation, a dialogue, focused concentration, okay, that all of us born after 1960 to 64, we the last of the baby boom generation. We came up to black exploitation. We seen some crap, okay? We have all seen some stuff, and you're right, okay? We got a generation of people who ain't seen what we seen. I believe, John, brother, if we mobilize and do what Peter was talking about, and with young people like Joe and everything who wants change, I think we could potentially, if we got to put, we're going to take some work. You're going to take some work, but I potentially think we could sew something in there.
Yeah, heterosexual day. We got it. We
got
to
be led, and be led by the men.
We can start a whole clothing line that says HP for hetero pride.
Hey, y'all lying. I got daughter and everything. We can do it. Hey, John, man, bro, I'm glad I asked you that question. You laughing, y'all clowning, but listen up. It ain't nothing but to just do it, bro.
That's right.
Be led by the very demographics of men who was not included in the very beginning. Our men. We give leadership to that nonsense, bro. Do you understand, man? Y'all
pride.
Oh, man.
Yeah, actually, because a good point is we are the counterculture now. We used to be the majority, the moral majority. Now, straight people like us, we are the counterculture because the gay pride was like counterculture before. And now we are the counterculture because that's the norm. Transgenderism, gay, and it's
now we're the minor.
Yeah, we're the counterculture of straight heterosexuality, family, two-parent.
Moral minority.
Now, here's one thing and you may not know that the fourth Sunday of every July is National Parents Day, and I helped get that elected with the American Family Coalition. A lot of people don't know about that, but that's a national holiday. It hasn't taken off like Mother's Day or Father's Day, but yeah, the fourth Sunday of July is National Parents Day.
Oh man, you should have put National Hetero Parents Day.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When we spoke before the city board of aldermen, it was Denise Bentley who I was telling you about. She said, "Well, what about gay parents? We should because what we do on National Parents Day, we kind of have Parents of the Year locally and nationally, and so we came before the council, and she said, well, what about same-sex parents? And I said, well, we only recognize heterosexual parents. Look, if you want to do that, but the fact that she would bring that up at a city council meeting when we were recognizing, mother and father, and we also recognize foster
toxic femininity.
That's toxic. That's toxic spilled inside there, right there. That's toxicity.
And that was 30 years ago, actually. That was 30 years ago. Now, if you even said we're only going to recognize same-sex parent, opposite-sex parents, males and females, oh my goodness.
In biology, in real life, two men can't have sex, and two women cannot have sex. And they can ejaculate each other, but they can't have sex. The word sex came out of the word sexual intercourse, and the word sexual intercourse means to reproduce.
Yeah.
You see? So you only have one sex organ. Your asshole is not a sex organ. Your mouth is not a sex organ. Your ear and nose are not sex organs. You only have one sex organ. And the only way you can have sex is to take your sex organ and put it with the opposite sex organ. You can't use the same sex organ because it don't work, right? Dicks just slapping each other. So it don't work. So really, two men can't have sex. In reality, in biology, is they can ejaculate. And I know the gay people are gonna hate hearing that shit, but you ain't having sex. You are ejaculating each other. There's a difference. And so that's that piece there, just what I want to say.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Because that's why I differentiate. Procreation is what you're taught, male and female.
Correct.
Everything else is fornication.
Correct.
Wrong terminology being used.